Continuing here. So, any parent, okay, even a crappy parent, does not want anything bad to happen to their children. They don't want their children in pain ever. Okay, so it's safe to assume, and it's clearly written, that God is a good God that loves us very much. So that this God doesn't want anything bad to happen to any of his children, doesn't want us to have to experience any pain. He wants the best for all of us. This is logical and reasonable to assume. And the most important thing I think I could impart to people and convey is that there is a core relation between evil in this world and money. And we need to simply get it. We need to see through God's eyes. And that is not hard to do if you ask. When you ask to be able to literally see through the eyes of the divine, our creator, our parents, then you can see it. And everything starts to look really simple, okay, and makes a lot of sense. So things make sense. You can be free in that sense, that things ultimately make sense if you see them through God's perspective, God's point of view, the reality that God wants for humanity being dramatically different from the one we've been experiencing for thousands of years. This is an age-old situation we got going on here, where the money lovers have been in control, and they know their day is coming, the day of reckoning, that the sands in the hourglass are running out, and that they're going to be rendered irrelevant, and they don't like it. They're going to lose more and more power as people start waking up and figuring out that the problems are induced and caused, and the vast majority of jobs now revolve around the problems persisting. So then there's all this resistance to fixing problems because people will be out of jobs, out of work. So their finances are threatened by solutions, literally. So if you solve dubious warfare, there's an awful lot of industries that are involved in making parts and weaponry and all this sort of thing. So if dubious warfare starts declining, like it already has under Trump, that's rendering people irrelevant. Eventually, it's going to catch up, and we can have a budget set and say, well, we're still going to fund all these, or we're not going to talk about putting these guys to work building houses for the homeless, of which a lot of the homeless are veterans. And these guys, these service members, would probably love the opportunity to learn how to build houses. It's not hard. I mean, if you could build Lincoln logs, you could build a house. Anybody could build a house. It's not rocket science, folks. It doesn't take a genius. It's really working with wood is really very simple. Okay. And even the plumbing, none of this stuff's all that complicated. I've seen houses built from the ground up, and I've been a part of building houses from the ground up. And it's no big deal. Laying a foundation is not hard either. Okay, this stuff doesn't take a lot of smarts. I mean, there's building codes and stuff. You got to go to school to get the contractor's license. But I could definitely exceed building codes just with what I already know. So, I'd still, well, no, actually, you're allowed to build, if you're just building your own home, as long as you talk to the building department, here's my plans, as long as they're at least up to code, then nobody can stop you from building your own home, even without a contractor's license. So, and that's something you could do over time. You could live in an RV in the meantime while you're building your home. If you got a lot, you can do whatever you want. But, the point I'm trying to make here is that there's simple, plentiful solutions, but there's a whole lot of resistance, and because people's jobs are threatened. Do you understand what I mean about how deep we're in it, how we're in a lot of trouble here? The lending institutions. Could you imagine 25% of Americans employed in the financial services industry in some capacity? Think how they'd be threatened by universal prosperity. The welfare industrial complex, all those people that are social workers now. Do you understand the implications of a universal basic income, ending desperate poverty, making sure people, at least everybody around the world, can afford their basic cost to exist, cost to live, okay? And everybody working in society was doing it 100% because they wanted to, and it was none of your business if some people wanted to be lazy, Just like Adam Smith pointed out in his book, The Wealth of Nations, over 200 years ago, he pointed out that, hey, a civilized society can support a lot of idleness, and it's just none of our damn business. They're not in the game. They're irrelevant. Okay? So if people want to be, what is very unnatural, and just be lazy and not contribute to society, doing jobs and serving one another, and thereby serving God, because how else are we going to serve the Most High? By serving one another, then, hey, it's not your problem. Okay? You've got to just pray that God's will be done, and you have the right attitude, the right spirit about things. So, yeah, Trump needs to be politically expedient. I think he would have served himself a lot better to get the lady that was running for the that was in the running for the Supreme Court. That would have been politically expedient. I think he needs to bring the good liberals into the flock in his decision-making process, particularly economics, because economics is what affects politics and the social welfare the most. It's all about the money, remember, the economy, right? And so he needs to bring these people in, and we need to unify, and we need to supplant the Federal Reserve. We don't need them. We can start our own money printing operation, get a payoff figure, and they'll have to accept that our new currency is payoff, because it would be stupid to pay them with the money they can print in perpetuity. I mean, they could be multi-trillionaires because they have the ability to print the money, right? They can be as rich as they want. So they don't want to be paid in Federal Reserve notes, so we'll have to pay them with our new currency, national currency, and that could be done. So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat here, and a lot of this stuff, like a basic income, could be temporary, because if this would have happened, it would have been totally unnecessary talking about a basic income if JFK had gotten his way. We would have seen universal prosperity. We would have seen a rising tide of prosperity that lifted all boats, all ships. That's what you would have seen. So you understand all the jobs that are threatened by solving that one problem we have of desperate poverty, the crime plummeting, and all those jobs that are affected by that, the dubious war plummeting, all those jobs that are affected by that, the lending industry being irrelevant on all those jobs that revolve around that, the social welfare industry and all those jobs that revolve around that. And you think we're not in a lot of trouble. This idea, why even try to solve the problem? Maybe the path of least resistance is best. Just go along with the status quo, establishmentarians, and to death and destruction. That would be, the easiest thing to do. Just be a coward and take the ignorance is bliss pill. And, but if you don't fight the good fight, you're not going to get a reward. Even if you fail, you're going to get a reward, because you're a success if you manage just to enjoy your life, as far as I'm concerned, and teach others to do so. Simple things like living by the golden rule, acknowledging God as being the head of your life and the giver of all that is good that you've ever experienced. Everything good that you've ever enjoyed in your whole life is because he gave you life, gave you existence. So rightfully we should honor him above all else. And the next thing he wants us to do is to honor each other, love each other, treat each other the way we want to be treated. It's a no-brainer. It's really simple. And all the other commandments, all the other laws that are made up by men, everything falls into place. And you have a pure heart. You start pleasing God. And it's written that when a man's ways please the Lord, he causes even his enemies to live at peace with him. I mean, that's the existence I have. I can't imagine why anybody would hate me, even the people I name by name, ad hominem. I mean, still, I'm just pointing out where their fruits are rotten and they stink to high heaven, what they've done, to not help, but to instigate and provoke the problems and the division in the land, and how, that's reasonable. But they can't hate me for that. I mean, they can. That's their choice. If they want to be my enemy, they can be that, because I'm opposed to their evil doings, and so that's their justification for hating me. That's their prerogative, but it's not warranted. And and I am trying to be my enemy's best friend. If they perceive me as their enemy, then they're wrong. They're mistaken. They're delusional. They don't understand. Inadvertently, if somebody says I'm their enemy because I threaten their position in place, that's not justification that's going to hold water. So God makes those that please him, whose ways are right before him, he makes their enemies to live at peace with them. And that's what I want. I just want unity. I just want to be a good brother to humanity. I just want us to get our dang act together and fix our damn problems. And I want people to stop denying that there's plentiful, simple solutions and that there's a whole huge element, whole huge swath of people that don't want the problem solved. And the incentive, the motivation, the reason for not wanting the is clear. You understand that they lose relevance if the problems are fixed. So they love their lives in this world as it stands, the status quo, the trajectory, the direction we're taking. They want it to continue. So you understand how your very salvation is tied into these economic matters, understanding that this is the root of all evil, that money is a false god, and how warped all of our minds are. Inevitably, how could they not be? I mean, we're thrust into a mean-ass situation, and we already have a hard-ass situation, which is the organic suffering we got to deal with, the natural disasters, the predators, even insects are predators. And it's that predatory spirit that they've inflicted on us. That's all what it's like, this social Darwinism. Dog eat dog, survival of the strongest, or meanest in this case. Yeah, they know what they're doing. They're mean. They love their lives in this world, and they want to keep their position in place, and there's no holds barred in what they're willing to do. And they say they're the altruistic ones because they want to cull the population, thin the herd for the welfare of the planet, and they got everybody thinking that this is okay to impoverish people deliberately because, yeah, duh, they can burn less energy, so they have a smaller carbon footprint, right? If you impoverish people, that's a no-brainer. Do you understand? So their elitist behavior when they're flying their jets around, it makes up for it. So this is how they're paying their CO2 carbon footprint, is by making it so others cannot have a carbon footprint or have a very tiny one. These people are diabolical in ways that I can't nearly come close to describing. I can't. They're just freaks, man. I mean, they're monsters. They're evil. And I can't stare into the abyss so long, like Friedrich Nietzsche said. When you're fighting these monsters, you can't stare into the abyss too long, lest you become like them. And that's what they want. They want us to be rendered in their image and likeness. They want people to hate them because they're filled with hate. They're filled with hatred toward humanity. So if you hate a living being, you're hating God, even if that living being is evil. It's not our job to judge them. Okay, we don't own them. They're not our property. We don't have, furthermore, we don't have the wherewithal, the wisdom to judge them properly. Only God knows the heart of men and the reasons for why they're evil and what's keeping them from repenting, their stubborn, wicked hearts. Only God knows them and loves them in a way that they need to be known and loved. That's even the evildoers. So our job is to try to win them over out of the darkness into the light as righteous people. And you've got to help them understand how the economic things, play into that. So our social, political, and economic well-being and our salvation is all tied together. It's very important to getting our act together, to being empowered, to being out of ignorance, out of confusion, and to be able to, in unison, work together. This is fighting the good fight and for righteousness and justice, fairness to be the rule of the day on earth, a level playing field from birth. That's what we got to be shooting for. And as idealistic and pipe dreaming as that might sound, that is God's will, and it is not hidden from us. I'm not making stuff up. I mean, this pertains to Jews and Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and Hindus and everybody alike that wants good, that purports to be a person of faith, that loves God and loves justice and mercy and all good things for everybody, treat humanity as one big family, right? This is what they all want. And it's coming, but we're going to go through some trauma, man. This is it, because there's some people that aren't happy about things going that way. They don't want the gravy train to end. They want to push this envelope in perpetuity. I'm going to get on to some current events from this past week, of which I got a lot to say. Last week, I forgot to mention that we had our local district attorney stood up at the city council meeting and warned the members about some fishy business was going on with ballots being sent to storage units and stuff. So anyhow, he kind of rooted out that, and it was good because even the woman that runs the voting, I forget what her job is, the elections office or something. She didn't seem to know anything about this. But if you talk to Bev Harris, who by the way is a Democrat, and you listen to her black on black box voting, there's a lot of rigging going on. And the hackers say, "Oh gosh, it's so easy to hack into the elections and manipulate stuff." I mean, how is this possible? We say our votes are so important that we vote, and yet this is going on under our noses. Come on.